series for June. We have, this is Andrew Lauder. I'm the Director of Sales in the East region. We also have Dylan Bowders with us, who's the Director of our Solutions Engineering, and also one of the key drivers in bringing in SolarWinds, as well as the ongoing support to the partner community and to the customers. So we got an interesting topic today, a little bit different than our standard topics, but I think that this is very important for us. So certainly appreciate you joining and hope you're able to get some valuable information out of it. So as always, this session is being recorded. I have received confirmation of that. So also the deck will be sent out within the next 24 hours. If you have any questions throughout the session here, please just go ahead and send a chat over to Summer, and we'll be sure to answer those and save some time towards the end so we can answer any questions that you guys do have. One more thing to note, if you're aware of it or not aware of it, we are running a spiff right now. This is separate from any of the master agent traditional commissions. This is a RapidScale spiff, 1x MRR for that. So as you can see, going through September 30th, so good chance to sell a deal and make a little bit extra cash. Also, it's going to cover the full suite of services that we offer from the 365 and SD-WAN and obviously the core solution. So make a little extra money, spend it on cocktails or boat rides, whatever you want to this summer. But just wanted you guys to be aware of that. If you have any questions, obviously reach out to your partner experience manager or reply to Summer, and we'll get you in touch with the right person. So part of this process, so really within RapidScale, I think everybody knows this for a while. We have our core solutions that we cover from a managed hosting perspective. Now, what a lot of people aren't aware of is outside of just the buckets of hosting, right, of parking applications and data and then delivering those applications, some of the behind-the-scenes things that nobody really realizes are some of the softwares. And really, the software is what makes everything tick. It's what makes it efficient and really brings that extra level of management that we do on a daily basis from a proactive side to the customer to help with that end-user experience. So from your end, from the partner side, as a trusted advisor, whether you like it or not, right, or you want to do it or not, it's a good thing for you to be ingrained in these deals and understanding what's going on so you can help to drive that customer to make the right decision for their business. Now, one of the things that we do on the front end, right, obviously from a discovery side and obviously try not to make you look bad, of course, but gathering the data to make sure that we're putting together an optimal solution for that customer based off of what they need and not what they have, right? And that's huge. And for you to be able to explain that to them and guide them through the process with this is going to make you, obviously, you look good, understanding that you're getting into these compute conversations and helping to drive their business in the right direction. So what happens from that, right? Obviously, you look good, you get more business, they talk about it, word of mouth, and then, it helps you to become what would be known as more of an expert in the space, right? Voice and data is good. You got that. That's there. Now we're getting the compute side where there is a gap, right? There's a gap on experience. There's a gap on knowledge. And, this is one of those tools that, coming in with us, we're enabling you to be able to leverage this with us to put the right solution together for the customer. So the whole topic here is about SolarWinds. If you guys know us in the past, we've gone through, multiple iterations of monitoring software and ticketing and antivirus and security and kind of across the board. Things have changed, right? The space has changed. Software has gotten better, and therefore we have adapted with that. Now, the one thing that we always preach to customers and to you guys is standardization. Right, the less moving parts that you can have while still being able to deliver the same experience and results, that's optimal, especially if you can be best of breed and you can really get what you're accomplishing. So what SolarWinds is it's essentially an NPM or a network performance monitor or monitoring software. So if you think about, as well as antivirus, so if you think about a computer with a high storage, right? If the storage is becoming high and it's alerted, that would be a monitoring aspect of it. Same thing with servers from a CPU and RAM perspective. So that's from a monitoring side of really what it does. Now, the nice thing about the monitoring aspect of it is it's agnostic across devices, whether it's workstations, whether it's access points, whether it's on-premise servers, RapidScale hosted servers, what have you. We can leverage it for all of those. And it also has an antivirus component built into it. So it's a single product, a single piece of software that we're leveraging for all of our customers, standardizing across the board, tying into our systems to enable for us to be proactive with the monitoring of a customer's environment so that we don't have to react to any type of performance degradation that they might see from an instance that would be picked up by this. Dylan, anything to add to SolarWinds? I know that you were one of the ones that you brought this, you were a champion of this product to bring it into us and kind of what it does. Anything that you want to add to that around the actual SolarWinds software based on your experience and what you know? I think Beyond might be on mute.
Okay. Yeah, I was apparently muted via WebEx, so I'm muted now. Yeah, the one thing I would add to that is, as a cloud managed services provider, we're not in the business of creating products. We're in the business of creating solutions, and we'd like to think that while we're not reinventing products, that we are reinventing the managed services model. SolarWinds is really the best tool, and we always try and choose the best tool when it comes to products so that we can incorporate that into our holistic solutions. And ultimately that, at the end of the day, is going to give us our best opportunity to provide what the customer really needs. And really, when you look at the landscape around not just monitoring, but reporting and patching and antivirus and having a solution that's a single pane of glass, that also allows us to take that data and import it into one of our new development product or one of our new development projects with our portal. SolarWinds was really the only company out there that met our criteria. So we're obviously super excited to have that on board.
Yeah, thanks Dylan for that. And again, you kind of see on the bottom, if you're kind of just looking at general aspects and features and functions of what it does, automated reporting, setup, maintenance, and kind of get an idea from that. So I might have confused you a little bit, but there's a reason for that, right? So I start off by talking about being the trusted advisor. What are you doing? So let's take there's a scenario you're coming into a customer. Probably, very similar situation that we see a lot of times with you guys, right? Decent, good business, limited IT resources, maybe third party, doing a lot of their management, so on and so forth, but don't have a great idea of really what they have in place. So the one thing that when Dylan just mentioned around building solutions, so it is key to understand what the customer actually needs versus, what they have. And what I mean by that is you built out an on-premise infrastructure and you went and procured servers. There's a lot of capacity planning that goes into that, so they're oversizing a lot of the resources. Now, the beautiful thing about the cloud is you pay for what you need, right? And I think we all understand that at this point. But how do we understand what they need without actually understanding their environment? So here comes the SolarWinds piece. So what we're doing for a lot of our engagements now on the front end, and again, this isn't something we charge for. We're engaged with the customer. We're trying to gather data on our end so that we can put together the right solution to give them the best environment and the most optimal solution. So we come in on the SolarWinds side, we install an agent with the customer, and we let that agent run. This is running on their infrastructure that they own. And what it does is it's just pulling data, right? So we typically let this thing gather data for around 7 to 10 days. Maybe we do 2 bulks of data for, peak time versus non-peak time if they're different times of the month. And then we take that data and then we analyze that. So that'll come back to us. And then from there, what we're gathering from that is a breakdown of all their servers that they have, the resources allocated to those servers. So what that would be a CPU, RAM, and storage, and Windows operating system, or Linux or whatever for that particular instance. And then it shows us the overall, the average utilization, the peaks, and the lows, so we can better see what it's actually using so we can right-size that server. So here would be an example. let's say there's a SQL database that's running, 8 CPUs and 32 gigs of RAM, and has, 1.5 terabytes of storage on it. If we go on there and see that it's running at, 10% utilization on the CPU and, 30% utilization on the RAM, and they're actually only using, 600 gigs for data, we know we don't need to actually have an 8 CPU and 32 gig of RAM server. We can right-size that and shrink it down because we know that we're not going to limit them from a performance perspective because they don't need that much space. Why pay for it if you don't need it? We do this same thing for ongoing customers to do QBRs. So once they're in our platform, we take a look at these numbers with them on an ongoing basis to make sure that their environment is right-sized as well. But on the initial, pre-sale side, this is huge. I mean, and what this does is, first of all, it gets us engaging with the customer. For you, you're bringing in somebody like a RapidScale that's going to come in and we're not pushing things down them. We're going to try to better understand so that we can be confident together in what we're doing together in terms of putting the right solution for the business. So that looks good on you. You're also, it's very easy to understand. We always come through this. We review it with our partners first. We explain what we're seeing. We're explaining what we're doing. And then so you're getting that, so you're able to help communicate that, thus making you, come off as an expert, whether you are or not. It really doesn't matter, right? Perception is everything at this point. So that's how we're working together, and this is what benefits you. Also, this is an extra step. This is a step that's not always been in place and it's not always used. But it's an extra step that takes time, and it's diligence, but the rewards and the benefits that we're getting on the back end outweigh any type of time we're putting on the front end because we understand that it's going to be right. And then from there, we can also get into the granular conversations around these servers and these applications, understand what the workflows are, if there's any type of interdependencies that they have. So we're now truly we're putting together a business solution for them on our end, and then making best practices and recommendations for them. This is huge. Customers, it literally takes 15 minutes, if that, to set up the call, and that incorporates people being 5 minutes late joining the bridge. 15 minutes, we're done. You install the probe, you let it run. We can see it on the back end gathering data. We get that data. We're not seeing it. There's no sensitive data coming over. We're just getting numbers, right? We're not seeing the data. We're just seeing the utilization numbers, and we're benchmarking those. So it's a really good exercise. We've had a lot of success with it. We've been able to take environments that would typically be way oversized on the front end because we didn't really truly understand what was needed, and put those together for the customer. So this is the pre-sales piece to this. Dylan and his team handle this. All of our solution engineers are capable of coming in there and getting the probe installed within the customer's infrastructure. And we also do have SolarWinds engineers that are in-house. That's all they do is our SolarWinds stuff. That if we need to bring them in to better explain it, we certainly can. So once we get past the kind of the solution phase and we understand that we have the data and that's what we've done, now, we've got the tier 3 data centers and the enterprise class infrastructure and the SSD storage and the Citrix and the VMware and all that stuff. And that's great, right? But in a managed environment, a customer is going to want to know, how are you going to prevent me from having poor performance? What does the antivirus look like, right? How is it tying into the ticketing system? All of this stuff. So this is another benefit, another valuable portion of the solution that we're bringing in is this SolarWinds piece. And we're explaining this to the customers, and we're typically going to demo the portal to show them what they're going to have access to. So really what we're doing here is if a customer says, we need everything managed, right? Today we're using, McAfee for our antivirus for all of our end devices. We're using Autotask endpoint management for the monitoring of our servers, and we're just a hodgepodge of different softwares and multiple different interfaces that don't talk to each other. That's how they're doing their monitoring today. So we come in and say, well, that's great. We can do all that, but with a single throat to choke. So we come in, you want your workstations patched, updated, and antivirus rolled out to them? Great, SolarWinds can do that. You want your routers and your switches and your access points and your firewall monitored and AV pushed out. Not that you really need AV on there, but push out monitoring. You certainly can do that, right? Same thing with SolarWinds. Do you have any existing on-premise servers that are not coming over in the cloud migration that you would like to have us to install the monitoring on an antivirus? Great, we can do it there. Oh, and also in the back end, the RapidScale side, what we're going to be hosting for the customer, where those applications and data are sitting that we're pushing out, we're going to use the same software and the same, same platform and the same single interface to manage all of that for the customer. So now they have a single pane of glass for all the nodes and the workstations and the servers within their environment to be able to see what that looks like. The other benefit is a proactive piece to this. So this obviously ties into our ticketing system. So a scenario would be, let's say there's a customer, they're hitting that threshold called 70% utilization on one of their servers on a daily task. Once it hits that threshold, that benchmark threshold that we set, it automatically opens up a ticket within our support system, and then we then address that. Typically, we're going to call the customer, and we're going to say, hey, server, app 001 is, running at 75% utilization. Is there something happening that we need to know about, first of all, that is causing this? And this is what we need to do to remediate it, right? Whether it's adding some additional storage, whether it's stopping whatever's happening. So that's that proactive approach, because what we want to do is catch high utilizations before they become impacting to the end user experience, because performance degradation happens whenever storage gets too high or CPU or RAM get too high on that server, because it basically slows down. So long story short, this is a piece of the solution that we are emphasizing whenever we are presenting the solution to the customer. Okay, great. You own the DAS, right? Here's your 100 users. Here's your Citrix farm. Here's your app server, CPU and RAM and storage. Here's SolarWinds. This is what SolarWinds is going to handle for you. And then that explains. So it's a level of comfort for them. First of all, it's a great software, but it's also a level of comfort being that there is that single pane of glass, and we give them full visibility if they want to. They don't have to work on it or really do anything in there to have visibility. Dylan, anything to add on to that?
No, I think that's good. One thing I will just clarify real quick. There was a question in the webinar about what AV stands for. So that's antivirus, also known as antivirus, anti-malware. Thank you
for clearing that up. Anyone in this call, you'll find it very rare that if I ever ask Dylan if he has anything to say, if he doesn't have anything to say.
I made it quick.
Like to come over the top. You did. Well, I guess I was thorough enough.
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, obviously, if you have questions, ask Summer. We're going to leave some time to address them, but I wanted you guys to kind of get what the general concept and what that software was bringing to you as a partner on the front end, as well as to us, and the customer on the back end to support it. So being that we've seen that, I think it's good for you guys to kind of get a look at the demo. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over to Dylan for a minute, let him kind of run through and show you what this interface actually looks like. And then we'll address some questions from there and then send you guys all on your merry way.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that. And it looks like we've got about 10 minutes, and I do want to leave a couple of minutes for Q&A. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. One of the great things about SolarWinds is it does make basic things easy, but there is a lot of customization and advanced features that can be done around things like self-healing and auto-discovery and patching with having even a queue in case the IT team with your customer or a customer wants to be able to approve patches before they get sent out, and maintenance windows when those patches actually get rolled out, and maintenance windows for things to be rebooted. There's a lot of customization that can be done. So what we're not going to do in 6 to 8 minutes is dive into the details, but I think it's good for you guys to see this dashboard, see the type of control that we have, and also I want to talk real quick about, let's say, and a lot of our customers, existing customers, don't just have an environment with RapidScale. They may have additional servers on site. We like to think that we can get rid of all those, but not in every case. They may have sites around the world. And what's nice about this solution is, number one, it comes built into a lot of our managed services, so you don't necessarily pay extra for having SolarWinds monitoring, and all of the features, including antivirus, on services where it is built in. But let's say that particular IT team wants to roll that out to their other sites. Well, as you can see here under SE Demo, I've got Dallas, Hong Kong, Sterling, and Irvine, California that are listed in my sites. And also I can see in my list here, I've got all the VMs that are in Dallas, all of the virtual machines in Dallas, all the virtual machines in Hong Kong and in Sterling. And then I can drill down into these. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of these servers. I'll drill down into that specific device. And you can see everything that's being monitored. I have a little dashboard here that can show current utilization around CPU, memory, current disk utilization. It'll start to collect this data as I leave this particular window open. It's already collected a lot of this data in the background, and I'll show you a report in a couple of quick minutes of what that looks like for the entire environment. So you can see here we start to gather some statistics. We've got patch summary, how many have been installed, how many are needed but are unapproved. And I don't expect or want this environment to be completely clean. I want to be able to show you, look, we have some patches that need to be installed. We've got disk space on one of our servers that the C drive is a little bit over a threshold. I can show you that in this demo environment. So we've got all of these different CPU information. We're not logged onto the server. We can get all this this holistic view from this one place. And if I go to monitoring, I can see all of the different checks that are happening on this particular server. And I'll be honest, there's not been a lot of customization done in this SE demo environment. This is all stuff that was automatically discovered and has automatically been monitored, including things like firewall policies and whether or not a reboot might need to be required because of patching or memory utilization. We have thresholds that have been set there. So if I go back to active issues, this narrows it down to only things that have been triggered in some fashion. And for instance, with this one here, I've got a C drive concern. So let's click on that. Drill down into the C drive, and I can see that the disk utilization has hit 75%. And you can see here that the template that's been applied to this particular asset tells me that if it's at 75%, it's in a warning state. If it goes above 89%, it's going to be in a failed state. Now, that doesn't mean the server is down, but it means that we really need to reply. We need to respond to that quickly. So this really allows us to be proactive in stopping issues before they become an issue. And disk space filling up is so common. It's super common, and especially if it's a C drive, it's going to be a production impacting event. If your average Windows file system or even Linux and other operating systems, if your utilization of your main drive goes above 80%, you typically are going to start to impact performance. And that's another thing that we want to be proactive with. And you'll see here there's a self-healing tab. We can actually kick off a script when thresholds are met to automatically go in and do very specific tasks like clean out a temp directory, run some kind of a zip archive function on a log directory, rotate, delete. I mean, there's lots of things that we can do as a self-healing, restart a process, restart a service, and all of those can be done first in a process and then escalate accordingly. So again, running a little short on time, what I want to do now is run over to our report server, and this is all linked. This is all available to the customer, available to the IT person. They can run their own reports. They can schedule the reports. So what I've done here is I've said, for the time frame of May 27th to June 5th, being today obviously, I want to run a report on my environment. I want to run that based on Windows Server. I want to export that via HTML. Now, my team, myself, we will probably normally export this to a spreadsheet so we can manipulate it. For the purposes of this demo, I'm doing this in an HTML export so I can show you on the same screen without having to switch applications. But you'll see here I've got my title page that shows resource utilization report. And Andrew was talking earlier about how we not only assess current environments, provide customers with some value add and sizing things appropriately, but there's a lot of value to these reports, and they may not have these today. In fact, most customers we come across, most prospects that we come across, actually don't have any insight into their environment, not near to the level that we can provide them with this tool. So you can see here CPU utilization. Now, normally in this report, in the normal export, I'm going to also have the number of CPUs or virtual CPUs that have been assigned to that particular virtual machine. And what we can do with that correlated data is say, I've got Hong Kong DC01 has the lowest hourly and highest hourly percent of 0.5 and 60, and overall 12.65% utilization. And let's just say it's got 4 vCPU assigned to it. That's probably over-allocated. We can probably go down to 2 vCPU and be just fine. So that might be a recommendation that we would make. Now, we're not going to tell the customer this is what it needs to be. We're going to make that recommendation, have a conversation about it, and they may say, well, one of the reasons this is at 61% utilization is because some kind of a script fires off, and we really need to make sure that that script, when it's firing off, has those 4 vCPU. Fantastic. We'll leave it at 4 vCPU. But we have that conversation, and we can have that evaluation based on that environment. So let's go to page 3. We've got additional VMs, the remainder of that page or of the CPU utilization. We can move on to memory utilization. So here we actually have the column that shows us the current allocation. We can see what the highest utilization is. Let's go down here and say 32% memory utilization with 4 gigs assigned. That might be okay. I don't know if I really want to skinny down that more. Now, if this had been 47% utilized, overall 46% utilized, 16 gigs of RAM allocated, we can probably bump that back down to 12. Let's save some resources. But of course, we're going to continue to monitor that. So we might change it to 12, continue to monitor it, see that maybe we went a little too high, and then adjust it accordingly. But of course, this is all going to be in conjunction with the IT team or just with our understanding of the environment. Here we have, again, additional virtual memory based on the list expanding past that first page. And I believe we also have disk utilization. Disk utilization is something that we wouldn't necessarily have a huge recommendation on unless it's over allocation. Unless it's under allocation and over utilization. So a C drive with 81% utilization is inside of that 20% threshold that I mentioned. We're going to probably recommend that we increase the size of that C drive. Now, if it's underutilization, it's probably going to need to be a relative gross over allocation of disk before we make the recommendation to shrink a disk. And the main reason for that is it's much trickier to shrink a disk than it is to expand it. So we might call it out, talk about it, determine whether or not it's worth the risk of trying to make that change. And we'll take precautions before we make the change to make sure we can roll back if we need to roll back. But so we've got 2 minutes, and I think just enough time maybe to run over a couple of questions that might have been out there. Summer, do you have a list of some questions you want to call out?
Yes, I do. So to start, how much does it cost to do an infrastructure assessment with SolarWinds?
0.
That's a great question.
It doesn't.
Go ahead.
It doesn't cost anything. I mean, this is something we're going to come in and do with them on the front end, so there's no charge for this.
Awesome, easy.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Pending there's some type of opportunity for us. We're in there having the conversations for a reason. We're not just going to want to go find somebody and just start running SolarWinds, monitoring tests. We're going to, there's going to be an opportunity to move to the cloud, in which case we'll leverage it.
Cool. What can you install SolarWinds on in a customer environment, like on workstations, servers?
Yeah, I'll cover that just really quick. Essentially what we do is we install a probe. We give that probe during the installation proper credentials like Windows admin credentials, maybe SNMP, community string information, and the probe will go out. I mean, and it doesn't work this way if you don't want it to. We can install the agents manually, but it will go out and install that software via those admin credentials on all of the devices that it can properly access. And if not, then we can do them manually on additional devices, or we can just do it manually. And Windows, there's Linux versions. We can also, there's an agent for Mac if we want to leverage that for, again, for the client side. And then any one of those agents or probes can also be leveraged for monitoring firewalls. We can't install an agent on a firewall, but network devices like switches and firewalls and other items, NetScalers in a virtual desktop environment would be something that we would do via that probe.
Awesome. I'm just going to ask 2 more really quick, and then we'll wrap it up, you guys.
I'll answer quickly.
Does this tie into your ticketing system?
Yes. And it will also tie into our portal with our ongoing development efforts. our main
Cool.
RapidScale portal.
Awesome. And
which you guys will be seeing the portal here within the next few months. We'll do a webinar on the portal to show you what's inclusive of that.
Very, very exciting.
And the final one I'll ask, I see another one just came in. We'll type up some answers to the remaining ones, you guys, and send them out in the follow-up. But why wouldn't a customer just do this on their own?
Great question.
You can.
Andrew, I got this one. And because I was mostly involved with the acquisition of SolarWinds, but yeah, a lot of customers use SolarWinds, a lot of IT environments. We have a buy rate. Number one, that's going to give us an advantageous price to the customer. Not only can we stay in business being able to offer this product, you can get paid commissions on selling this product, but we can still provide a very aggressive price. But we also get to wrap in all of our services around this and our management and our first level support around this product. So it's not the customer on their own with SolarWinds, it's the customer in tandem in a partnership with RapidScale. And I saw one more question that popped up. I just want to answer it real quick around, can this work in AWS, Azure? It doesn't matter what the environment is. We can extend this SolarWinds product down into a data center of a competitor, AWS, Azure, as long as it's a Windows operating system, a Linux operating system, a Mac operating system. It can be extended into pretty much any of those environments. The only requirement is that the agents can reach the internet and can report back to our SolarWinds server on specific ports, and I'm pretty sure it's 443.
Perfect. Then we're good to go, you guys.
Great.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Dylan, thanks for jumping in the demo. You guys have a great day. If you got any questions, let us know. Look for the stuff to come out, and look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.